The first call comes in before midnight. A chapter reports a large apartment fire. 100 families are homeless. Later, Night Watch staff assist a chapter with a procedural question. And on it goes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The Red Cross responds to over 60,000 disasters each year. Most are handled by local chapters, with guidance and support available from the Disaster Operations Center, the DOC. But each year, several hundred of these disasters exceed the resources of individual chapters and states and require more extensive assistance from the DOC.
Herman, do you think the state has the capacity to handle a disaster of that size?
What happens is if a local area or chapter is in a disaster and they do not have the assets or the personnel to meet the need, they will contact their state coordinating chapter or their state disaster lead, who will then bring to bear assets in the state to assist them. If it becomes too large for the state to handle, they'll call the DOC here, and we will begin to move national assets from other states and other regions of the country to assist them.
The purpose of the Disaster Operations Center is twofold. The first is to acquire information. What has occurred? What is being done? What do people anticipate may happen in a few days? The second role is to acquire and assign resources to the disaster-affected area.
Pike County is estimating to have $1.3 million worth of damage to the city of Troy.
From its location in Falls Church, Virginia, the Red Cross Disaster Operations Center guides the mobilization of a nationwide network of people, material resources, and information to chapters and the public.
It's a coordination role that we play, but it's a very critical one in the larger disasters.
When it's activated, the DOC mirrors the headquarters of a large disaster relief operation. All the functions mobilized during the course of a major disaster are represented, with the function leads acting as resources to their counterparts in the field, and they are always on call.
For example, the mass care person isn't here 24 hours a day, but if there's something of an urgent nature anytime, day or night, then the people who are covering the DOC can find a mass care person on call and get the kind of information that's needed.
We can have conversations with counterparts at the DOC and get reality checks or have consultations on service delivery, and it's been very valuable.
I've received your facts concerning the vehicles that you have placed on alert.
Along with the support they provide to the field, function leads coordinate with other voluntary organizations and government agencies and work closely with the national media to keep the public informed.
The people who have losses, who need temporary housing, can come in and say, I need this kind of help.
Disaster Operations, Al. Hi, Pat.
In most instances, a chapter's contact with the DOC will be through the Daily Operations Unit, which operates 24 hours a day.
Their expertise is that they know how to find out information. They know how to talk with workers calling in about what their current steps are, what their next steps might be.
The workers in daily operations can support most disasters with the help of representatives from select functions. But when a large disaster hits, it's all hands on deck as the DOC is activated.
Amy, go ahead and activate the DOC.
Disaster Operations Center requesting
This time 3 years from Washington.
Some degree of flood and wind damage.
We just got word of a disaster. We're going to be putting some members of our alert team on standby.
Within hours of a large disaster, workers converge on the DOC with a common objective: to support the relief operation.
A lot of the coordination has been through the Tallahassee Watch and Mass Care, and that's slowly transitioning to Sharon Orrell, the Mass Care officer on the job.
One of the first things that we do when we activate is we pull together all of the information we can lay our hands on, from weather service to other technological resources, to say what has happened and what are the parameters of the effect of this incident. And then the second thing we do is, what's the nature of these communities? What can we find from demographic information that will tell us about the makeup of communities, which has implications on what relief is going to be necessary, what recruitment of staff may be necessary, what equipment we may need to send in.
DOC staff also draw on past experience to guide their response.
They're able to supply us information on demographics, past history of disasters in the area, and give us an idea of what the resources in the area are. That frees up the operation from having to spend time gathering
when
that.
you're going to move in, and you can come back and they will give you a voucher for furniture.
Communication is also critical to determining the scope of a disaster and mobilizing an effective response.
The disaster communications function provides emergency communications to our field operations in the field. Our primary responsibility is to keep the disaster operations center here in touch with the field operations. Communications from the field can be derived in several different ways. Of course, there's a wide pool of ham radio operators across the country. They normally would provide some of the first communications we get out of a disaster area.
Roger that, Gaspar. Good afternoon.
That's not right.
As the damage is being assessed and communications established, the logistics and mass care functions are also in high gear. Over the next hours and days, they'll marshal nationwide resources to the places they're needed most.
I know that some herbs are already on the move. Do you have a handle on
we've
which
got
ones so far?
Right now, we had a request come in for 6 herbs at 8:30.
Our biggest challenge is trying to get what the operation needs to the operation within the time frame that the operation needs it.
Trucks, food, whatever it might be that they need to run a shelter or run a kitchen, we want to try and provide that to them so that all they've got to do is take care of their clients.
Okay, we're looking for some logistics specialists.
A special adjunct of the DOC is the staffing center, which gets trained disaster workers where they are needed, fast.
Just fax it to me. The staffing center actually recruits all of the disaster workers and sends them to the relief operation so that we have the trained and qualified workers there to provide the assistance.
Staffing, of course, is pivotal to everything that happens on a disaster operation, because without people, and particularly without good people, you can't get the job done.
What's involved in doing that is maintaining a database of over 15,000 individuals that are involved in 23 functions at 5 levels, and to constantly update that database to ensure that the people are available, trained, and ready to respond given any disaster relief operation that occurs.
You know, we're just recruiting for DR 774.
Talked with Santa Barbara about 1 o'clock this morning our time, and they had 5 shelters open with no count available. Ventura County, as you know, has had a shelter open for several days.
In the early stages of activation, when most everyone is focused on the crisis at hand, it's easy to overlook the fact that there may be over 70 other disaster operations that need attention. But daily operations is on the case, following each of the situations, ready to mobilize at any time.
And so everyone is put up for the night.
All jobs are entitled to the same support as much as possible. The ones that are most forefront take the lead people for real management and senior management levels, and I'm a level 5 job director, so qualified to give that same type of advice to other job directors who need it for those ongoing operations that are not in the limelight anymore but still going and maybe long-term operations.
Throughout the course of a disaster, DOC staff remain in constant communication with relief workers on the scene, providing resources and support.
It's always good to be able to consult with someone that's familiar with the functions, familiar with the problems, familiar with the issue.
We also try and help the disaster operation think ahead. It's so easy to get caught in the here and now.
Also, we've all served or led disaster relief operations. And we do remember and we do know.
You're going to be able to handle that with the staff that you have?
741.
Was a pretty big estimate.
The Disaster Operations Center. It's a state-of-the-art facility, a team of dedicated people working with chapters across the country to ensure that the Red Cross will be there whenever and wherever disaster strikes.
We're all in this together, and that the success of Red Cross is a universal thing.
We're able to really focus on what individual families will need, may need, and how is the best way for us to ensure that the American Red Cross disaster relief is being provided.
The best thing is when things come together, when you have the right people in the right place, and Red Cross does a great job. It happens a lot.